I am Ranjit Bidwe and I will be talking about subject digital electronics and logic design. Now before going to this subject we will try to understand computer first. Now when we talk about a computer is divided into two categories, means roughly we can divide computer into two categories, hardware and software. So this subject, this digital electronics, then there are few more subjects called microprocessor, computer organization, which is there in next semester and next year. So all these means whatever things we are going to learn from these subjects, they will come under hardware category. And operating system and other features given by the operating systems like database management system, networking and all those things will come under software part. So majorly we will try to understand the hardware through this set of subjects. So this is the first subject from the set of subjects who are going to explain you the hardware. So before going to actual content of the subject, I want you to understand the basics of this subject first. So this presentation, this video is actually giving you a brief about hardware present in the system and what is its role. So we'll try to understand that first and then we will go to the actual part. Now before means when we talk about a computer, remember our computer is having few properties and few rules. So there are three properties of the computer. The first property is for everything we have a program. So anything present in a computer we have a program for that. So if you take example of, means for example I have opened the PPT through maybe Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides. So for Microsoft PowerPoint or for Google Slide we have a program. Okay, means if it is a Windows operating system we will have an executable file for everything. If it is a Linux operating system, directly program will be made available to you. So moral of the story is for everything we have in a computer we have a program. So Adobe Reader we have a program, Microsoft PowerPoint we have a program, the timer who is giving us the time, for that also we have a program. Our operating system itself is a program. So first thing we are supposed to understand about computer is for everything we have a program. Second property, not rule, property. Everything is stored somewhere in a memory. Okay, nothing is there in air in the computer. Everything is stored somewhere in a memory. So there are multiple kinds of memory, different kinds of memories. So we will try to understand what is the role of each kind of memory. But do remember, everything present in a computer is stored somewhere in a memory. Now third property of a computer is everything stored in a memory will have a unique address, right? Like us, see, we are living in a world, and in world we have a unique address. Means every country is having a unique code. In country every state is having a unique code. Means if we take a example of India, in India every town, every village, every city is having a unique pin code. Okay, so when we see 411043, so automatically we will come to know that it is the pin code from city Pune, right? So Dhankaudi, so where our college is there, right? So for every area, for every village, for every town, for every city we have a unique pin code. Similarly, when something is stored in a computer, for everything we will have a unique address, right? And we call that address as a physical address, to remember, right? So our home address or our college address is a physical address of our college or home, your home maybe, right? So everything stored in a memory will have a unique address. So there are three properties of the computer. First one, for everything we have a program. Second one, everything is stored in a memory. And third one, everything stored in a memory will have a unique address, and we will call it as a physical address. Now there are two rules apart from these properties. The first rule is your computer or processor, it never performs operation on actual data directly, right? So for example, let's assume I have a word file, and in that word file I have stored very important information of mine, maybe passwords of my bank account, or maybe passwords of my email account and other accounts, whatever. So I have that file. Now that file is very important to me, that data is very important to me. Now if I want to make change in that file, so usually what we do, see, human mentality, what we do, we make copy of that file, and in that copy we make changes. Now when we confirm that whatever changes we have made they are final, then we will replace that old file with new file, right? So same thing is done by the computer. For computer, most important thing is the data. The property of a computer is data. So data is very important for the computer. So your computer never plays with the data. So whenever you want to do any operation on any kind of a data, computer makes its copy, and on copy it performs that operation. Means for example, suppose I have two numbers, 10 and 20, and both numbers are stored in a memory, right? So if we want to do addition of 10 and 20, what happens in a computer? Your computer makes copy of 10, your computer makes copy of 20, and whatever copies we have made, the addition of those copies will be done, 10 plus 20. So answer is 30. So when computer confirms that ki whatever answer we got, it is a final answer, then it will store that answer to the memory, right? So this is the first rule of a computer. Computer never perform operation on actual data. It makes copy of a data and then it performs the operation. Second rule of the computer. Computer never gives you physical address directly. In a properties of the computer, what we have understood, everything is stored in a memory, and everything stored in a memory will have a unique address, and that unique address, that unique physical address, will never be directly disclosed by the computer. So why not? Obviously for security purpose. The most important thing for the computer is data, and for security purpose that address will never be directly disclosed by the computer. Okay, so that address will be given in format of a logical address, right? So computer gives you logical address, it never gives you physical address directly. Means for example, if you want to come to our college, and if I am a computer, if you ask me what is the address of our college, so I will tell you address like this, ki you come to Katras first, and from Katras to maybe west or east 3 kilometers, right? So Katras will be my base address, and west or east 3 kilometers to west or east it will be my offset value, right? So computer always gives you address in this format, in format of base address and offset value, and we call them together as a logical address, right? So computer always gives you logical address, and from logical address we are supposed to calculate the physical address. Now there is means when you change the hardware, means mainly processor, when you change the microprocessor present in a system, the method of calculation, means converting logical address to physical address, that method will be changed. Okay, so I am calling it as a calculation now. For every processor it will be different, right? But do remember, every computer gives you logical address only, it never tells you physical address. Now whatever rules and properties I am telling you, these rules properties are applicable to today's computers also, means starting from first generation of computer to now, everywhere these rules are applicable. Okay, so you will understand all these things when we will go further in the subject. So now we will see the evolution of the computer. These are the very basic thing you might be knowing, but we will quickly go through it, so we will have the idea. So today whatever computers we are using, they are in a fifth generation, means we are in a fifth generation of the computers. So we will see what were the previous generations. The first generation of computer, mainly they were using vacuum tubes. I have one picture of this. So this is the picture of the first generation computer. So you can see the whole you will be able to see holes over there. Now those holes are actually vacuum tubes. Now when hole is filled, means data is present. If hole is empty, data is not present, right? This, in first generation of computer, the number system used by the computer was binary, means only 0 and 1 was there. So if data is stored, means if 1 is there, then that hole will be filled, otherwise that hole will be empty, right? So this was the first generation of computer. I have one more picture of this. If you can see, the one shelf or rack or one row is one CPU. Okay, it is a single computer. It's not like that ki multiple computers are stacked together. It is a single computer, it is a CPU of a single computer. So this was the first generation computer where vacuum tubes were used, and each tube can store 1 bit of a data, either 0 or 1. Now in a second generation of computers, vacuum tubes were replaced by the transistors. So transistors means what was the biggest advantage of transistors? they are small in size compared to the vacuum tubes, right? So as transistors are small in size, the total size of computer is reduced. So transistors made computers smaller, then less expensive. They were not that expensive, and of course they were providing you the good calculating speed. Okay, when I am talking about calculation may be any arithmetic or logical calculation or any operation performed on the data. And in this means one more thing we should understand from we should understand about second generation of computer is assembly language programming. This was the first generation where programming was possible. In first generation of computer, only calculations we were able to perform, maybe arithmetic calculations only, not logical. But from second generation, programming was possible. So second generation of computer is actually the first generation of programming. Okay, and that programming language was assembly language programming, which is low level language, right? In next semester we have one subject called microprocessor. In microprocessor we are going to learn this assembly language programming. Whatever languages we use today, all these are the high level languages, maybe C, C++, Python and all. So when you are executing program written in all these high level languages, that program will be converted to assembly language program, and that assembly language program will be executed by the computer. So in next semester we will learn assembly language programming. So do remember, second generation of computers was the first generation of the programming. Okay, so this is the picture of second generation computer. You can see the size is tremendously reduced. In third generation, transistors were replaced by the ICs. See, transistors were beneficial but they were not reliable. So those transistors are replaced by the ICs now. Now one IC is equal to maybe hundreds of the transistors. So again size is reduced, cost is reduced, and again calculation speed is increased. Now in third generation UI was introduced. Means in first generation and second generation we were not having UI. You might have heard about DOS operating system. So DOS means disk operating system, sorry. DOS means disk operating system. In disk operating system there was no UI. Means when you start the system, directly command prompt will be displayed to you. Okay, but in third generation of computers, when ICs were introduced, in this generation of systems, UI was possible. Okay, and for UI, to display UI, to show UI, operating system was used. So from third generation we were having UI and we were having a operating system. So UI may be whatever UI we are getting nowadays, or it may be a simple command prompt where you can where you are supposed to write the commands and perform the operations. Again, from this generation, keyboard entry was possible. Keyboard was there in previous generation also, but it was used for specific purposes like assembly program, writing assembly program and all. But here keyboard can be used for multiple purposes. So this was the picture of the third generation. Fourth generation, it was the major change in the history of the hardware of the computers. From fourth generation we were having processors. Okay, we have processors from fourth generation, 1971 to now we are having processors in our system. Processors are very smart devices present in the computer. We will talk about processor in detail after this, but do remember they are very smart. They can perform multiple operations on the same time. Okay, if you see this picture in the slide, this is the motherboard present in our lab. If you go to microprocessor lab or hardware lab, you will find these kits, and it is a motherboard of processor 8086. Okay, so we have 8086 in syllabus. We will see that in detail. Now today we are there in a fifth generation of computers, and fifth generation of computers having features like artificial intelligence, voice recognition, parallel processing, natural language processing, machine learning. Okay, so all these features are present in today's generation of the processors or today's generation of the computers. Okay, this is the list of different hardwares present in the computer. We will try to understand what is role of each hardware. So first one is microprocessor, second one is controller, third one is memory, So there are 4 different kinds of memories present in our system. Then we have timers, then we have input output ports, communication ports, and interconnection buses. So we will start with first two, processors and controllers, microprocessor and microcontroller. So if you ask me what is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller, so microprocessor is present in computer and microcontrollers are present in devices like fan, washing machine and all. So if I ask you to differentiate between fan and computer, it will be very easy, because computer is one who can perform multiple tasks, fan is one who can perform only one task, means rotating, or controller present in washing machine knows how to rotate that drum. Nothing else can be done by the washing machine. Your washing machine cannot do multiplication, division. Your fan cannot do addition, subtraction. Why it was means why they cannot do that? Because they have microcontrollers, and which are there for specific tasks. Now when you talk about processor can do multiple tasks. They can execute programs, they can do arithmetic operations, they can do logical operations, they can solve problems occurring in a system. Everything can be done by the microprocessor. So the most important hardware present in the system is the microprocessor. Then second one is the microcontroller. So if you see the motherboard, see I will go back to that previous slide. This one, motherboard of 8086. If you see this motherboard, on this motherboard there is only one processor and all remaining are the microcontrollers. What we have learned, microprocessor is one who is performing all important tasks and multiple tasks, and controller is doing only one task. So how all of them are combined together? All important things will be done by the processor, and all secondary things present in the means all secondary things done by the computer are done by the microcontroller. And for every secondary task there is a separate microcontroller present in the system. Means for example 8254, which is also called as a timer, it is a separate controller present in our system, who is taking care of timing displayed on the screen. Or there is one more controller called 8279, keyboard and display controller. The role of that controller is take the input from keyboard and display it on a screen. Nothing else can be done by that controller. Or there are few more controllers present who are doing that specific task only. And all important tasks like performing arithmetic, logical operations, resolving interrupts, means problems occurring in the system, and executing program, all those things are done by the microprocessor. So if I want to show a diagram, see this is the diagram of a processor. We have a microprocessor, we have a timer separate, we have input ports, output ports, communication ports, and memory separate, but all these things are combined together in a single chip to form a controller. Means in a controller you will have a processor, but that processor will not be smart enough like a processor present in a computer. Means for example, let's assume we are talking about fan, and in fan there is a controller. If you store or if you add i5 or i7 processor in a fan, now you can imagine what will be the cost of the fan. Okay, the cost of i5 or i7 processor is about 7,000 to 8,000 rupees. So cost of fan will be more than 10,000 rupees, right? So in fan whatever controller is present, and in that controller there will be a processor, but that processor will be smart enough to do that particular task only, the task of rotating, right? It will not see we don't want to execute any program in a fan, so that processor will not be that smart to execute the programs. So according to use processor will be stored in the controller, right? So when we talk about a controller, so all these things are combined together in a single chip. And when we talk about a processor, for everything we will have a different chip. Okay, so the main difference between processor and controller is processor is doing multiple tasks and all important tasks, and controllers, it can perform a specific task and secondary task. Then third important component, hardware component present in a computer, is the memories. So there are different kinds of memories. First one is RAM, then ROM, then cache, then register. So RAM is a volatile memory. Remember, volatile is a property possessed by the computer because of electricity, because of the power. Now when power supply is given, volatile memory will be active. When power supply is removed, volatile memory will have nothing stored in that. Non-volatile, it has nothing to do with the power. So RAM is a volatile memory, ROM is a non-volatile memory. So basically in our system, RAM is used for execution of programs and ROM is used for storing our data. Okay, so all data will be stored in a ROM, and RAM is one who is used to execute the programs. So one property of a computer, the first property of the computer, we have learned that for everything there is a program. So all programs or executable files will be stored in a ROM. So whenever you want to execute that program, that executable file or program will be transferred to RAM, and in RAM that program is executed to see the output. Means, for example, if I want to open this PPT, and let's assume I am using Google Slides. So executable file of Google Slides will be stored in a ROM. So whenever I want to open the PPT, that executable file of Google Slides will be transferred to RAM, and in that application PPT will be open. Okay, so or if I want to execute program to display factorial of a number, so you have written the program, that program will be stored in the secondary memory, and whenever you want to see the output, that program will be transferred to RAM. In RAM that program will be executed and you can see the output displayed on the screen. So mainly RAM is used for execution of the programs, ROM is there for storing the data. Now RAM is one who decides the speed of the computer. See, there is what computer does, till your RAM gets full, it will start executing, means it will take new task to execute till your RAM get full. So till RAM gets full, number of tasks will be added to RAM, and all those tasks will be executed simultaneously. So multitasking is possible because of the size of the RAM.